Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're doing things a little differently, going full-on ancient astronaut theory with Zecharia Sitchin and his book, The 12th Planet. Buckle up because things are about to get pretty wild. Thankfully, though, we've got our expert here to, help us separate fact from fiction. Well, maybe not fact from fiction, but you know what I mean.
It's true. Sitchin's work is definitely up out there. But even if you don't buy into the whole, ancient aliens thing, The 12th Planet is still a fascinating read. It really makes you look at ancient history and even human history in a whole new light.
So let's start with the basics. What is this 12th planet Sitchin keeps going on about? I mean, I only remember learning about 9 planets in school, unless Pluto's making a comeback.
Right, well, about that 12th planet, Sitchin calls it Nibiru, and he says it's out there, way beyond the outer edges of our solar system, on this long elliptical orbit.
Okay, so if it's really out there, why haven't we seen it? You'd think with all our fancy telescopes and whatnot, we would have spotted it by now, right?
That's what most people say, and Sitchin has an answer for that, of course. He says that Nibiru, well, it spends most of its time way out there, even farther than Pluto, which would make it, well, pretty hard to see.
So it's like a cosmic game of hide and seek. Makes sense. But Sitchin also says that Nibiru isn't exactly empty. Who are these Nephilim he talks about?
Ah, the Nephilim. Now, this is where things get interesting. Sitchin says they're an advanced species who live on Nibiru, and get this, he believes they visited Earth thousands of years ago.
Visited. You mean like a quick flyby, or are we talking a full-on alien invasion here?
Not quite an invasion, but definitely more than a quick visit. Sitchin believes these visits had a huge impact on the course of human history, and he gets this from his interpretations of ancient Sumerian texts.
Okay, so he's reading between the lines of some really, really old texts. But how do we know he's interpreting them correctly? It seems a little far-fetched, doesn't it? Like, how can you tell if these stories about gods and monsters are meant to be taken literally?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's one that scholars are still debating today. But what Sitchin did, and where he kind of, breaks away from mainstream archaeology, is that he took these ancient Sumerian texts, things like king lists, creation myths, stories of gods and goddesses, and he interpreted them as literal historical accounts.
Literal. Like, he truly believed these stories were accounts of actual events, even the ones about gods ruling for thousands of years.
Exactly. Take the Sumerian king lists, for example. These are texts that list the reigns of early Sumerian rulers. Now, most scholars see those incredibly long lifespans, some of them spanning tens of thousands of years, as, well, symbolic, mythical. But Sitchin, he took them literally. He said, no, these weren't just kings and queens. These were the Nephilim. He believed they arrived on Earth almost 500,000 years ago, long before modern humans are even a thing.
Wow. Okay, so let's say, just for argument's sake, that he's right. What were these Nephilim doing on Earth? Just, hanging out, enjoying the scenery.
Not quite. Sitchin believed they were here for a very specific purpose. Gold. And lots of it.
Gold, like the shiny stuff we use to make jewelry. Why would super advanced aliens travel across the galaxy for gold?
Well, according to Sitchin, they needed it to repair their planet's atmosphere. He got this idea from the way the Sumerians used the term Apsu. It's often translated as underworld, but Sitchin believed it referred to a real place, southern Africa. And guess what they found in southern Africa? Some of the earliest evidence of gold mining.
So let me get this straight. We're talking about advanced beings crossing the cosmos to mine gold on Earth because they messed up their own planet's atmosphere.
That's the gist of it, yes. Sitchin even identifies the Annunaki, these, well, they sound like almost like demigods or something from Sumerian mythology, as the workforce for this massive gold mining operation. He reads these texts about the Annunaki, the ones who toiled in the deep tunnels, as evidence of these ancient mines.
Wow. Talk about a cosmic commute. But if we're being honest, this all sounds a little too, convenient. Like he's cherry-picking bits and pieces of ancient texts to fit his theory.
Well, he's definitely making connections that other scholars haven't, and his interpretations are, let's just say they're not universally accepted.
Yeah.
But that's part of what makes his work so interesting. He's not afraid to ask the big questions, to challenge conventional thinking, and to offer a completely different perspective on human history.
So we've got these Nephilim, right? They've traveled across the galaxy. They need gold. They've got this workforce, the Anunnaki. But where do humans, like actual humans, come into all of this?
Well, this is where Sitchin gets even more, shall we say, creative. He suggests that the Nephilim, well, they decide to create humans.
Hold on. He's saying we're talking like lab-created humans, like in a test tube.
Not exactly a test tube, But he does suggest a form of genetic engineering. And get this, he points to the Sumerian god Enki. He's often seen as this wise, creator god figure. Sitchin says Enki was the one behind it all.
Enki. So we're going with the whole ancient aliens meddling with human DNA thing?
That's a lot to take in, I know. But Sitchin uses this to explain the sudden appearance of agriculture, complex societies popping up. He says these weren't just natural progressions, they were the result of this extraterrestrial intervention.
Okay, so we went from mining gold to basically creating a workforce. But it wasn't all smooth sailing from there, was it? I mean, Sitchin talks about the Great Flood.
Right, the flood, that's another big one. And that story pops up everywhere, right? Not just the Bible. But Sitchin, he ties it back to Nibiru.
Nibiru, the planet. What does a planet have to do with a flood?
Well, he believed that when Nibiru gets close to Earth on its orbit, it causes all sorts of, chaos. Floods, earthquakes, the whole shebang. He suggests that the Nephilim, they might have even used it as a way to, kind of hit the reset button on things.
You're saying they caused the flood on purpose? To control things?
That's one interpretation. And he points to those stories of, a chosen few being warned, like Noah, right? Sitchin suggests maybe the Nephilim scare some people.
Okay, so we've got aliens, gold mines, genetic engineering, now a cosmic flood. But it doesn't end there, does it? Sitchin goes on about ancient rockets, right? Like humans trying to build their way off this planet. Ancient rockets. Okay, now I've heard it all. Are we talking like chariots of fire here? Or did ancient humans actually try to build spaceships?
Well, Sitchin points to the Tower of Babel story, the one from the Bible. He saw it as more than just a tall building. He thought it was like a launch pad.
A launch pad, like for rockets?
Yeah, like a really, really old launch pad. He found this term Shem in Sumerian texts, and he thought it referred to some kind of launch platform. He even connected it to other descriptions of, these divine objects that sounded kind of like, rocket components.
Hold on, are we saying that ancient humans, with maybe a little help from their alien buddies, tried to build their own spaceships to, get back to Nibiru?
It sounds crazy, right? But that's kind of how Sitchin saw it. It makes you wonder, what was the end game here? What were the Nephilim really up to?
Right. Were they just using us? Or were they trying to, share their knowledge, help us advance?
Good question. It's something Sitchin wrestles with, too. He suggests that maybe, just maybe, the Nephilim were trying to prepare us for something, like the return of Nibiru.
So they created us, messed around with our planet, then gave us a heads up about the next cosmic disaster.
It's a theory, and it definitely makes you think about, what else might be out there? Are we alone in all of this? Or will the Nephilim, as Sitchin believed, make a grand reappearance someday?
I don't know about you, but my head is spinning. Ancient astronauts, genetic engineering, gold mines, floods, rockets. It's a lot to process.
I know, right? Sitchin's work, it's definitely something else. Whether you believe it or not, it makes you think about the big questions. How did we get here? What else is out there? And what does it all mean?
Those are questions we could spend a lifetime pondering. But for now, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into, let's be honest, one of the wildest theories out there. It's been a wild ride. So until next time, keep your minds open and keep asking questions because you never know what you might find.